join me in one verse of America. Thank you, Hurst, and Hurst will be up again. He's on point today. Please be seated. We have a number of announcements. Indeed, I am not Yana Ross. Yana's son is in the hospital, and she was going to do our Rotary Minute this morning and introduce guests. So it's my honor and pleasure to introduce Robert Gooden from the Durango High Noon Rotary Club in Colorado. Robert, I'm jealous of your city.
Hi, Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Hi.
Thank you. You may be seated. And to do our Rotary Minute this morning, I'd like to read a quote from Ron Burton. He was the 2013 to 2014 Rotary International President. All of us came to Rotary to get involved and to make a difference. And in Rotary service, as in just about everything else in life, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. If you only put in a token effort, you won't accomplish very much and you won't find very much satisfaction in what you do accomplish. But when you make the decision to truly engage Rotary, to bring Rotary service and Rotary values into every day of your life, that is when you start to see the incredible impact that you can have. That's when you find the inspiration, the excitement, and the power to truly change lives. And no one's life will be changed more than your own. Again, that was Ron Burton, Rotary International President, 2013-2014. With that said, our March featured charity is the Hope and Healing Center. They were founded in October of 2014 using equine-facilitated psychotherapy. They are licensed psychotherapists who work alongside riding instructors and trained horse handlers to bring hope and healing to clients of all ages and backgrounds. See the table tents on your table for more information, please, and that's where our cut money's going this month. But we have a free drawing opportunity. So on your tables, you'll see some entries right here. These are from David McAlvany, our speaker today, and they're good for 2 books. So the winner receives 2 books and a $50 gift certificate to, I believe, a gold coin.
Yeah, we'll do 3 drawings.
3 drawings. So one book and one drawing, one book and another drawing, and then a $50 gift certificate for $50 in gold from the Royal Canadian Bank, and he'll tell you more about that when you come up, but you've got to enter to win. So these are on your table, and please enter. Coming up, a few important...
Can you submit more than one?
Can you... no, Joni, you cannot stuff the ballot box. We also have a very, very important meeting. For those of you who know or are on the board or interact with anybody from a nonprofit, please remind them that this Monday, March 25th at 4 p.m. at the YWCA, located on 12th Street, there is a pre-application conference. Joan Wagnon and our foundation board are putting that conference on, and that is to learn more about the grant process and the goals of the Topeka Rotary Foundation. So anybody who wants to apply for or respond to that RFP, they have to have a representation there, or representative there at that meeting. So that's Monday at 4 p.m., March 25th at the YW downtown, which, if you've heard, will also be our new office space in not too long. Next announcement, our Rotary District Conference is going to be awesome. Follow the Yellowbrook Road to inspiration. Sign up at topekarotary.org. Downtown Topeka is the host club for the conference. Gordon Lansford and I agreed to go out and speak with a few other clubs about that and invite them personally. Are there anybody else in the room that would like to do that or volunteer to do that? If I wear a tie to every lunch between now and the end of my time, was there anybody else here who would be willing to go speak to one club? A tie every day. Hey, Linda said yes. All right, and David said yes. Well, shoot. All right, I'll wear a tie every day. Thank you, David and Linda, and you and Gordon and I will go out and do that. We have a proposed member announcement, Dina Sattler with the Kansas Department of Commerce. Dina, if you would stand up, please. We'd just all like to say hi. Hi, Dina. She's Director of Marketing and Communications and is sponsored by David Heineman and Gordon Lansford. We also have a couple of red badges to award. Liz Sage, are you here today? Liz? Awesome. Liz, come on up. Liz is with the Greater Topeka Partnership. She's the Member Relations Manager, and she's sponsored by Yana Ross. I'm sorry Yana couldn't be here today. Welcome. And Veronica Techgrabber. Veronica, are you here today? I don't see Veronica, so we will award her red badge next. Well, welcome, Liz. Next up, we have Paul Harris presentations being performed and done by our own Hurst Kaufman. Hurst.
Thank you, President Mark. It's my privilege to present some Paul Harris Awards today. Our Paul Harris Award was created in 1957 upon the death of the founder of Rotary, Paul Harris, who was a Chicago attorney. At that point, the Rotary International Foundation decided to recognize individuals who had donated $1,000 to the Rotary International Foundation. The Rotary International Foundation is the philanthropic part of Rotary that carries out worldwide service on the part of all of us. And the mission of the Rotary Foundation is to enable Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the improvement of health, the support of education, and the alleviation of poverty. And the Rotary Foundation has several projects. The most remarkable one is Polio Plus, that we're all familiar with, in an attempt to eradicate polio worldwide. And we're very close to accomplishing that goal, and our club very nobly raised over $20,000 last year thanks to Sam Kaka's efforts toward the Polio Plus challenge from the Gates Foundation and other challenges. So that $20,000 ended up being $75,000 or $80,000 that our club initiated toward polio. There are 6 areas of focus of the Rotary International Foundation work, and those are peace and conflict prevention, disease prevention and treatment, water and sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, and economic and community development. Now, some of our members are members of the Paul Harris Society. I'm one of those, and that means that those of us who are in the Paul Harris Society have pledged to donate $1,000 a year to the Rotary International Foundation. And would all of you who are members of the Paul Harris Society please stand and be recognized. And there are a few who aren't here. Now, I have a beef to pick with this club, and that is there's a program with Rotary that's been in place for many years, which is called Every Rotarian Every Year. And the idea is that every Rotarian should donate $100 a year to the Rotary International Foundation. Now, when you look at the statistics for our club, the average giving of our membership is a little over $100 per person. So that means that I and those individuals who stood up are making the donation for some of you. And I don't think that's right. I think as a Rotarian, you should recognize the work of Rotary International, which is done through the foundation, and at least give $100 every year to the foundation. And you can see Linda after the meeting to make your donation after hearing that. You should be shamed into giving it. I'm not above shaming you into giving to RI. We have a first-time recipient today of a Paul Harris Award, and that is Vince Fry. Vince, would you please come forward? Your contribution to the Rotary Foundation is allaying suffering, improving living conditions, and providing educational opportunities for people all over the world. And you should be very proud of having contributed to that cause. This is your citation, which is in appreciation of tangible and significant assistance given for the furtherance of better understanding and friendly relations among peoples of the world. To Vince C. Fry, signed by the President of Rotary International and the President of the Foundation.
Well, thank you.
And here's your pen, which you should wear whenever you can. And welcome to the Paul Harris group.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it very much. Certificates here for earlier recipients of Paul Harris Awards, and those are Patrick Michaelis. Pat, are you here? You come forward. And the other one for Edie Sneeden. Edie, if you would come forward. We have several members who have added additional contributions to their already existing Paul Harris Fellowship, which means they're a Paul Harris Plus. And the plus means after the first Paul Harris Award, they have given that many more thousands of dollars toward to Rotary International Foundation. And let's recognize those. Greg Allen is a Paul Harris Plus 1.
Getting instructions.
Thank you. Don Porter. Don is a Paul Harris Plus 2. We can throw it to you there. And what's your picture? And then somebody named Lucky DeFries. Lucky's here, I know, because he rode with me. Paul Harris Plus 3. Now David Beck, is David here? David, come up here. Paul Harris Plus 4 and a Paul Harris Plus 5. I'm not sure what that means, but it's in the script.
Forgot the 4.
Okay, forgot the 4. So he's getting 4 and 5 both today. And John Christensen. Is John here? John is a Paul Harris Plus 4. And Terry Wages, Paul Harris Plus 4. These are our awardees for today. We're very pleased to have these contributions going to the Rotary International Foundation. You can't imagine how much it means to people around the world. And those of you who have been to a Rotary International Convention, and I encourage everyone to go at some time to a Rotary International Convention, you really see the impact of these contributions that we can't imagine sitting here in Topeka, Kansas, what it's done worldwide. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Hurst. Let's all give a standing ovation to all of the Paul Harris Fellows and the Paul Harris. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jay Beffert, who will introduce our speaker today. Jay.
Thank you, President Mark. I have the pleasure of introducing today to my fellow Rotarians our distinguished guest, David McAlvany, CEO of McAlvany Financial Companies and the author of the recent published book, The Intentional Legacy, Reverse Engineering Your Family Legacy from Finish to Start. As President Mark pointed out, there are cards on the table to register for drawings for 2 of these books, as well as the other item that was mentioned, and Mr. McAlvany will talk about it in a few moments. A few words about Mr. McAlvany. You may have read in the Capitol Journal this morning that Mr. McAlvany was the keynote speaker at the 58th Annual Prayer Breakfast at the Peak of Vermont Inn yesterday morning. Very good reviews on that from people that I've spoken to, number one, and secondly, what the article said this morning. His curriculum vitae extends much farther than yesterday's performance, however. It seems that David McAlvany, as a prodigious youngster, delivered his first speech on inflation, get this, standing atop a coffee table and wearing a 3-piece suit at the tender age of 6 years old. This 6-year-old young man spent his childhood traveling to Africa, Asia, Middle East, and Europe with his father, Don McAlvany. It was during those extensive travels with his father and family that he received an unrivaled and priceless education on geopolitical, social, economic, and intelligence developments from around the globe. David graduated from Biola University and is an associated member of Keble College, Oxford University, where he studied philosophy and political theory. My daughter is not a Rhodes Scholar. She is currently a grad student at Notre Dame. She spent a couple of semesters over in England studying, and she did have some time to spend at some of those universities, and she's always impressed, totally needless to say, of the gravity of even just walking on Oxford University's various campuses. David later volunteered as an analyst in Chile with the Institute for Liberty and Development, which is dedicated to providing free market solutions throughout Latin America and the Third World. What an honorable cause to be achieving. He gained extensive business experience with Morgan Stanley, working for startups and business financing, and received honors as top salesman for Southwestern Company. He's a featured speaker on CNBC, Fox News, Fox Business News, and Bloomberg, and on radio programs, financial seminars around the world, in which he analyzes major events and their impact on the global economy and financial markets. You can text or you can Google Bing some of these, and it's quite fascinating to listen to them. He can be heard weekly on his market commentary podcast with world leaders, bankers, economists, and renowned investors at www.mcalvanycommentary.com. He's a capital partner and advisor for Salt Lake Ventures, a Kansas City-based private equity firm. He's an avid reader on many subjects, not just inflation as a 6-year-old, but he reads about finance, economics, and philosophies, and facilitates a business-related monthly book discussion with his colleagues at the McAlvany Financial Group. Among his extensive interests are a keen passion for cycling and mountaineering. With his wife and children, he spends his free time skiing, hiking, and enjoying the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. Without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker, David McAlvany.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to be here. Pleasure to be with you this morning. As Jay mentioned, there's little pads on your tables if you're interested. We have a number of books in the back, and 2 of those will be sort of raffling off at the end. One of our latest programs is directly with the Royal Canadian Mint, and we'll have $50 sitting at the Royal Canadian Mint. If you're interested, we'll also raffle off the gift card at the end. Get just a cup of water. Well, again, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here in the Capitol. I've been able to drive around and see a bit of the changes that have been orchestrated in the downtown area and in the Noto areas in recent years, and this is a great community to be a part of. There's a fresh energy emerging here. This morning I met with the District Court Judge and a number of legislators early at the Capitol building for some very encouraging words and very personal commentary on the leadership challenges and opportunities across the state. I was impressed by what was said. I'm grateful to be here with you, knowing that this group of Rotarians also has a deep level commitment to leadership in the community. This morning I'd like to share a couple of ideas on the topic of legacy. Sometimes thinking about our last chapter in life clarifies the road that we take to get from here to there. And so it's helpful as we craft our legacy to think in those terms. Thinking about where you will be years or decades from now is how you connect the dots. from the present to the future. I refer to that in my book, The Intentional Legacy, as reverse engineering. Now, in some cultures, anticipating your demise really clarifies your relationships. There was an old Scot named Andy. He was on his deathbed in the Highlands. He called to his lifelong friend Jack, called him to his bedside. And he said, "In yon cupboard is a 40-year-old bottle of single malt scotch. When I'm dead, I want you to pour it over my grave. Will you do that for me, Jack?" Jack thinks long and hard about the whiskey and eventually replies, "Aye, I'll do that, Andy, but you'll not mind if it passes through my kidneys first." Humor aside, we know that there will be people who will weep at our graveside. And there may be people who do not shed a single tear. Doesn't that depend on our choices and how we've invested in relationships? When my grandfather died, the church was packed to capacity, and flowing outside were 150 grown men on the steps, unable to fit into the sanctuary, crying their eyes out. He was a 12-time state champion football coach and high school principal. He connected with people. He invested in people. His legacy was one of changed lives impacted by his words, his deeds, his wisdom, his guidance, his direct investment in the young men of that community. How much of legacy is understood in terms of material goods that you leave behind? If I ask 100 investors what they think about legacy, 80% or more will talk about distributing assets, but writing a robust trust document, or equitably spreading the listed assets in their will to heirs as a bequest. In our profession, the overwhelming evidence of a hyper-focus on financial asset transfers is at the expense of a comprehensive values transfer. And that's typically revealed at the reading of the will or trust document. Enter the world of tooth and claw. If I may, I'd like to tell you why legacy and stewardship mean so much to me, because I have a very personal why. Today, I operate two boutique second-generation family businesses. One is a precious metals brokerage. The other is an asset management firm focused on alternative investments. I've been married for 20 years, and we have 4 children. Life is good, but it almost never happened. My father was then, at that time, the entrepreneur businessman, the proverbial breadwinner. He founded our companies 47 years ago. He was a somewhat absent father, busy saving the world, building an enterprise. His dad left when he was only 6. And I'm sure he didn't know what else to do but work hard. For me, his absence and the many broken promises emerging from the tyranny of the urgent stirred anger and disappointment. My teenage anger and rebellion was not unlike any other, except that I did choose to run away from home. I was away for almost a year, and the conditions set for my return included rehab and a long stint, almost the entire year, at a youth ranch in Arkansas. I'll never forget the first few weeks at that Arkansas facility, taking care of the pigs, feeding them, dragging their troughs from 6, 12, 18 inches of mud and washing them out in streams. What I wouldn't have given to be home again. Eventually I did return, but the most life-changing moment was still ahead. After my return, I got in my fair share of trouble. And one day my dad confronted me, eating a meal at a Waffle House, and I could tell the tone change. I was ready for a fight, and I waited for my dad to lower the boom, read me the riot act. And instead, through his tears, he spoke of his disappointment, but also of his forgiveness. He extended grace to me, and it was more than concept. That reality of grace was more than I could bear. Through it all, I was learning the significance of that word and that reality, but also of redemption. And slowly, I began developing a vision for the future. The starting point of that word intentionality That is the moment that you choose to live with purpose and to see the many resources that you have as resources that must be stewarded. The Waffle House was that moment for me. Professionally, for nearly 50 years, our family has focused on the management of tangible assets. Securities, commodities, currencies, precious metals. Our world and our work is about stuff. Tangible stuff. We've worked with many of the most moneyed families in America. It's the management of intangibles which truly defines legacy and legacy success. Of the tens of thousands of families we've counseled, only a few prioritize the growth and care for intangibles, intentionally creating and cultivating love and loyalty and grace and kindness and respect and many other values. It's the intangibles which hold families together through thick and thin. So this absence served as the impetus to write the book, The Intentional Legacy, to broaden the scope of resource management to the stuff that brought healing and restoration to our family. My sense of urgency comes from knowing that as a would-be legacy practitioner, time is running out. The relationship clock is ticking. So we broaden the definition of the resources we manage to include intangibles, and we see that legacy creation is not simply what we leave at the end of our lives, but legacy is the sum total of all of our values, all our commitments, all the choices that we make throughout life. What you choose today, and tomorrow, and the next day, add it all up. This is your legacy. This is your life message. And it's never too late to begin aligning your ideals with your daily actions if you need to adjust your legacy trajectory or rebuild on a better foundation. Here's what I learned from Ebenezer Scrooge about legacy. Charles Dickens, in A Christmas Carol, tells the story of a man who is obsessed with success, obsessed with money and acquisition. The description is of a business partnership where two men dominate the financial landscape, and they move to monopolize any business opportunity. This is what serves as the backdrop for what ultimately becomes a tale of redemption and change. "You are fettered," said Scrooge, trembling. "Tell me why." His business partner, now who's a ghost, replies, "I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard. I girded it on of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it." So one partner died, returned to Ebenezer in his dream, and warns him of the life choices they both had made, which enslave and hold captive. And the ghost encourages Scrooge to cast off those chains. It's never too late to redefine one's legacy. Scrooge chooses generosity and gratitude and encouragement and relational connectedness in the end. Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends, to which, if preserved, they must lead. Yet Scrooge concludes, "But if the courses be departed from, the ends will change." Literature offers insight into these issues, recurrent issues, issues of a perennial nature. They're recurrent themes that people have dealt with over and over again. Greed is not new. Seeking the security of wealth, playing the game to win at any cost, these are old stories. And they're repeated through every culture and every geography through all time. Unfortunately, you find, as you observe human nature, that it's not like a software that can be upgraded through time. There are no glitches which an engineer can fix with a simple download. But happily, we are free to choose and create a different future, like Ebenezer. Life is short. Its brevity is something that is very motivating to me. You may may or may not be familiar with a few of these names. Keith Green signed to Decca Records at age 11. This is the very first rock and roll label. His life shifted dramatically in his early 20s when he began to practice the teachings of Jesus. He continued on as a music writer and as a Christian evangelist, but he was gone at age 28. He died in a plane crash. 2 of his children were on board the plane, leaving a wife with a 1-year-old infant and yet to be born infant. Jim Elliot died at age 29. He was a Wheaton College grad, and he was intent on translating the Bible and living with the Haurani Indians in Ecuador. So he set out with a simple mantra: he is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain that which he cannot lose. He was murdered by the Indians he felt called to serve within a week of his arrival. Gone before he even started, it seemed. Pistol Pete Maravich, an LSU grad, an all-time high scorer in NCAA Division I basketball. I promise we won't keep you from your game at 3. Won't be here though. But he went on from his NCAA Division I basketball career to a storied NBA career, and ball handling skills, if you recall, which made the Harlem Globetrotters look like rookies. He fell dead at age 41, playing a pickup game in Pasadena, California. He had a heart defect which had gone undetected all his life until then. I have a friend, Daniel, 2 years ago, age 11, in Oregon, who was in a horrific ski accident and left him with massive brain damage. Even so, you see something of the miraculous on display as the functional parts of his brain are taking over the tasks once managed by the damaged areas. Yet think about this. At 13, now 2 years later, he's suffering from grand mal seizures. Imagine being in high school and navigating the social scene with that as baggage. Levi, a young man in our community, age 11, just 2 weeks ago had a massive stroke. He's on life support, and that holds him between this life and the next. Life is short. We have no guarantee of tomorrow, no promise that we'll reach old age. So what am I saying? When you think about your legacy, think about every relationship, every friend, each family member, each coworker. What do those relationships need? What would they benefit from? Imagine you're holding a 5-pound sack. Can you put 10 pounds of mud into it? Pour in as much as you can while you can. Because while your assets will never love you back, the people in your life certainly can. So invest accordingly. What were we created for? I'm not talking about an individual set of talents or your unique skill set, your profession. I'm talking about general design. When I read through the Bible, I see evidence from the first book, Genesis, to the very last, Revelation, of a recurrent grand theme. One word: relationship. You were created for relationship. Everything within you cries out to know and be known, to love and be loved. And I think this was by design. So let me suggest that you play a long game. Play the long game. And you see this clearly again, going back to the first book of the Bible. In Eden, we're designed for fellowship, designed for relationship. You may not agree with this, but I believe we have an eternal nature. So make sure you measure your commitments by their lasting relational impact. Playing the long game, in my view, is thoughtfully prioritizing relationships as the only things that stretch from the present into an eternal future. Actions today echo into eternity. They certainly live beyond you. What are we remembered for? This is an exercise I'm sure you're familiar with. You may have done this. Have you written your own obituary, sketched out what might be written on your tombstone? I'd like to add this just to lighten things up. And Dave and Jay, I apologize, this does include some lawyerly jokes. A lawyer's epitaph in England: Sir John Strange, here lies a lawyer and an honest man. and that is strange. In Thurmont, Maryland, and my computer has just died on me. In a Thurmont, Maryland cemetery, it says, "Here lies an atheist, all dressed up. I had nowhere to go." And Harry Edsel Smith of Albany, New York, born 1903, died 1942, looked up the elevator shaft to see if the car was on the way down. It was. What would be written on your tombstone? Seriously. Are you remembered for how many square feet you lived in? Or the size of your 401k? The position you climbed to within an organization? Or how well you loved? How deeply you cared? How attentively you listened? Are you remembered as a kind man, a courageous woman, a man who was generous, a woman that was wise, a friend that paid attention and was consistent and true, a father who was available to listen or to play, tender-hearted, loving? It's more than a tombstone. It's what is etched on every person's heart and mind as they recall your life. So much of what is truly priceless in life we willingly sacrifice, running the gauntlet of comparison and competition, sort of the keeping up with the Joneses syndrome. We sacrifice relationships on the altar of fame and fortune, feeding an ego that knows no limits. So, my suggestion is never go for a win or a victory or a conquest in the present moment that sacrifices tomorrow or creates a burden for someone else. And this is fighting a cultural norm, which is all about self-advancement, self-preservation. If you think about this in the macro context, this is how we collectively sit with over $22 trillion in national debt. This is how non-financial sector debts are at all-time highs, 253% of GDP. These are numbers that are a collective reflection on what is too often a personal issue as well, being self-focused. And it's our children and it's our grandchildren who always pay the price for misdirected energy, for malinvestment, for corrupted priorities. So whether it's personal wins or political wins, it's no different. If they sacrifice tomorrow and burden the future, they contribute to a legacy of pain and regret. And they too will be recorded and remembered as the legacy we left. Like it or not. So measure every business deal, weigh every decision, consider every commitment in terms of the long-term price to be paid. Not merely dollars and cents, but relationally. Relationally. Your future is not merely a future in retirement. We're talking about a forever future. In my view, being heaven and homeward bound, who you are and what you become now plays into a forever kingdom role. So when you're trying to win in the present moment, remember the larger context of your choice. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. You've heard that said before. But your legacy is no different. I think it was the Dalai Lama who said, you sow an act, you reap a habit. You sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow a character, you reap a destiny. Your legacy is defined by each action, aggregated and compiled into the story of your life. So I want to get down to brass tacks with you. The importance here is of the small daily choices that you make. Remember how we define legacy. It's the sum of all your values, commitments, and choices throughout life. What you choose today and tomorrow and the next day, add it all up. This is your legacy. So what are the possibilities? Here are a few simple suggestions, some ideas. Make up your own, but small choices add up to a legacy, hopefully that you're proud of. Is there, as you're thinking about this, is there a relationship that you have that would benefit from a small amount of dedicated quality time? Just to get you thinking creatively, here we go. Date night on Tuesdays. A spoonful of honey with your daughter each morning. Guys' night with your sons to play cards and talk about life on Thursday evenings. Break out the cigars. Sunday, books and breakfast. Once a month, do a simple book report and describe what you're learning and how you're growing from it. The annual ski trip with a best friend, consistent every year. A biography a year, read and discussed with another friend. Friday night, pizza, root beer. We do root beer floats. A movie. We're talking about the rhythms of life, and it's the rhythms of life which are a picture of our ideals and of our priorities. So in a weird way, think about the small things that you do to think about the big legacy themes that you want developed and remembered. To think big about legacy, you got to get the little things right. I'll argue that the best family cultures are built on love, not money. And the most enduring legacies are based on intangible, not tangible, wealth. Cultivating loyalty, trust, forgiveness, compassion, and other intangibles is not the result of luck or of good fortune, but rather it's about intentional forethought, daily discipline, perhaps even prayer. We do what we do because we want to. And we don't do certain things. When we don't do certain things, it's because we didn't care enough to make those things happen. So for all the things done, for all the things left undone, let's not forget that this is the stuff of legacy. And it's not a balance sheet, it's not a checking account, it's not a 401k. I want to return for a moment to that spoonful of honey. As you see, I have a routine with my daughter. Each morning I scoop her up out of bed and set her on the kitchen counter. We spend 5 minutes together before the rest of the house wakes up. I'm making coffee, without which my wife does not rise from the dead. And in those 5 precious minutes, we recount our dreams, how we slept, and anything else that's on my mind or her mind. A year or so ago, I was leaving to go on a trip like this one. And my daughter grabbed hold of my leg, and squeezing as hard as she could, she looked up into my eyes and said, "Daddy, I'm not going to have honey without you. I won't have a single drop until you get back." A short 5 minutes and a small spoonful of honey serves as the basis for what, as an adult, I recognize as a profound understanding of solidarity. And that's not exactly her language, but it's the starting point of relational commitment. These are the ties that bond. In a flash, her words filled my mind with just how important the little things are that we do each day, the little things we do each week, the little things that we do on a routine basis. So don't neglect the small things. They're the basis of the grand legacy themes of the future. Thanks for letting me share some ideas with you on legacy. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to spend the time. And if there's one question, 2 short ones. One question. Yes, Jay.
So when you were 6 years old, you knew about inflation. What did you do when you were 7 years old?
Definitely moved to the benefits of deflation. Which is, well, we'll get into it.
Thank you, David. David did mention that he will stay afterward and is available for questions after our meeting convenes. David, we have a history here of asking our speakers to sign the book plate of a book, and then in their honor, we donate that to a local elementary. It's Ross Elementary School's public school library. And so this week, we'd like you to sign the book Wolf Hollow, and the book plate is on the inside cover. We'll do that in just a minute. We also have 3 rotary 4-way test coins, one for each of you on your team who came. And since one of you are a Rotarian, you know very well what that is, and we believe that you understand those core values, and we want to encourage you in your journey to uphold those. And then when you see somebody else upholding those down the road, feel free to share that one with them and encourage them as well. With that said, the announcement for the RFP, Monday, 4 o'clock, the 25th at the YW, that is out there on the Rotary's Facebook page. And so if you would, also if you're on Facebook at all, please like that and share that, and so that more and more people will see that, and personally send an email or make a phone call to any organization that you think would qualify and be interested in applying, but maybe does not yet know of that. Are we going to do the drawings here now?
Yeah.
Okay, and so what we'll do, let's somebody from every table grab all the applications, the entries, and Ray, will you make sure that Joni doesn't submit more than one over there? And then we'll compile all those and real quickly draw. And I know time is a burning. While we're compiling those, I will say that next week's meeting is in the Maynard Conference Center in the Shawnee Room, and our program is Matt Pavarnik, CEO of the Greater Topeka Partnership. We'll ask somebody with long sleeves on. Actually, short sleeves, I think, is the technical thing. This could get me in a lot of trouble. Gordon Lansford, you win one. Gordon Lansford wins one book.
Thank you. Can you bring one book then?
And David, you said we were going to draw for one more?
One more book and then the gift cards.
Rayhan Reza, you win a book. Congratulations. Congratulations, Rayhan. And now for the $50 gift card, good for a gold certificate.
Physical gold. Gold.
Mark DeGraff. Just kidding. No, just kidding. Terry Wages, you're the winner. Terry Wages, I have your entry right here. Okay, so next week we're at the Maynard Conference Center in the Shawnee Room, and Matt Pavarnik will be our program. With that said, let's rise and say the 4 1/2 way test. Instead of the half being, is it fun? Let's make it, is it basketball? It's so impressive that all of you are here on a national holiday like this when so much basketball is to be played. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it basketball? Thank you. Have a great weekend.